Hey guys, what's up, it's Ray, welcome to this new video. This video is part 3 of my 120 Dungeoneering guide. I'm sorry I had to wait a little bit longer for this part, but I had some homework, I had a little bit more busy IRL, so less time for making videos. But here's part 3. This part is going to cover the floors and prestige. Many people have been asking how prestige works. I'm going to try to explain it as good as I can, but it's really hard to explain. You really got to understand it, so trying to explain that is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to try my very best. Now, if you complete a dungeon, a screen will pop up, and that's this screen you'll see on the screen right now. The reason I've chosen this screenshot is because I really like the time of this screenshot. This is the fastest large floor 5 out of 5 men I've ever done. Now, for the max experience, you should always do large floors 5 out of 5, and I'm really proud of this time. It's 7 minutes and 48 seconds. It was really fast. As you can see, I didn't do all bonus rooms, only +2, and I took 1 death, but I'm still really proud of it. Now, to explain this screen, because you gotta understand this screen to get the max experience. Now, on the right, you'll see all the names of the people that were in the dungeon, which is not the most important part of this screen. In the top left corner is the time. As I said before, the time this is 7 minutes and 48, which is really fast. But if you do your first large dungeon, you should probably get around half an hour to an hour, probably. Depends on if you go with friends or if you talk over Skype or anything like that. But the time is always nice to be there because you can try to beat your own time, which is kind of a motivation to do Dungeoneering, really, in my opinion. Then you have the base experience. You have 3 different options there, which is floor, prestige, and an average. Now, floor is 43. As you can see, is not really the right experience since I didn't do all bonus rooms, but it's 26k experience. Then you have the prestige, which I'll explain in a second, which is 53 for me, which gives you 43k experience, and then you have an average between those two, and which also the first multiplier that will appear in the bottom of the screen. Now then you have the modifier, which is basically going to modify the basic experience, which is the average of 35,000. Now first we have the dungeon size, which you can choose once you start the dungeon. You can choose small, medium, or large. Large dungeons, as I told you before, can only be done if you have 3 people or more. Now this is a 5-man dungeon, so large was enabled. It will show plus 15%. Now the difference between doing a small dungeon and a large dungeon is not 15%, but as for a multiplier it will show 15%. Actually it's about 50%, I'm pretty sure, but it would just show 15% here. Now the bonus rooms is how many bonus rooms you've done that will not lead up to the boss or have anything to do with the boss room. There are always 13 in every dungeon. It doesn't matter which dungeon size, if you do small, medium, or large, there are always 13 bonus rooms. Now for every bonus room you get 1%, which adds up to your multiplier, means more experience per hour. The difficulty is 5 out of 5. Now there are 5 people in this party. Now once you start the dungeon you can actually set a different difficulty to this dungeon. If you want to get the max experience, you should always set the main difficulty to the amount of people there are in your dungeon. I have 5 out of 5. I have 5 people in my party, so I set the difficulty to 5. But if you do only to 1, let's for example, that would mean the guardian doors will be way easier, and for all the puzzle rooms you only need one guy. But the base experience will also be less, and you'll get an experience penalty. But for 5 out of 5 you get a plus 19% multiplier. Well, if you do 1 out of 5, I'm pretty sure you get a 35% less multiplier. But I'm not completely sure about that. The level mod means how many people or guardians you've slain in the dungeon. Now if you want to do the fastest floors possible, you don't need to slay every guardian, only once there's actually a guardian door. That's the only reason why you should actually kill the guardians in that room. For any other reason, you should rush through it as quickly as possible to get the fastest floor, meaning you can do more floors per hour, which means more experience per hour. The complexity is 6. Now as I said before, with the complexity and everything, you should always go on complexity 6 unless you're rushing, which I'll touch on later. But if you want to get the max experience, if you want to do large floors, you should always do complexity 6. Guide mode, you just ignore that. Never use guide mode, it's so easy. It will just give you a penalty for no apparent reason. Deaths is how many deaths you took in the dungeon. Now for every death you get minus 11% multiplier. Now the maximum amount of deaths is 15, but this will only count 8 deaths, and that's already the minus experience, or the least modifier you can get within deaths. So take as less deaths as you can, but don't overdo it and don't be too careful, because that will slow down your dungeon. Means less dungeons per hour means less experience per hour, which should be overall quite clear. Then you have the total modifier, which is basically, it adds up every modifier the difficulty, the level mod, everything, it will add up to a well, this dungeon added up to 109%, and that will modify your average experience. So as we go back to the top, we have 35k, but at the bottom we have 38k, which is basically the 109% experience you got from the average multiplier. Then you have the tokens, which is basically 1/10 of the total experience. I got 38k, so I got 3.8k tokens. This is basically the main interface. If you understand this one, which I'm going to explain bit by bit, you can get the maximum experience per hour, and maybe you can even touch on some things I don't even know. So let's go to the next thing. Now, the higher your dungeon levels, the more floors you can access, and more floors means more experience. Now, the first floor is floor 1, that can also be accessed on Dungeoneering level 1, and on Dungeoneering level 3 you can access floor 2, and so on. So every 2 levels you can access another floor. Now, first, when you go to the party interface, there's another form party option, and once we set our floor, I'll show you the difference between an unticked floor and a ticked floor. Now, as you can see, I can go all the way up to floor 53, that's my highest floor, and you'll see every now and then you'll see a tick. Now, that tick means I have done that floor, and if I do that again, it will mess up my prestige, which I will also explain. Now, all the floors I have unticked can still be done, and the prestige will also be given to that floor. If I do a floor which has already been done, the prestige will be 0, and you get way less experience than you normally would. Now, prestige is something that is basically the amount of floors you've done in a row without doing a floor over again. Now, as you can see in the bottom corner of my screen, you'll see current prestige and previous prestige, which is my current progress, previous progress. Now, my previous progress is 53, which is the max floor I've done. And my current prestige is the floors I've done so far, which is 2, namely I've done floor 1, and I have done floor 30, as you can see right here. Now, if you reset, your current progress will go all the way to 0, and your previous progress will be the floors you've done before you reset. So let's say I've done all my floors from 1 to 53, and I'll reset. My previous progress will go to 53, and my current progress will go to 0. Now, after I've done that, I can again do the floors I haven't done before, and it will still count as my prestige run. So once I've done that floor, at the end of the dungeon, it will say prestige 53 because that's my previous prestige, and the floor will say, it depends on what floor I do, but let's say I do floor 2, it will say floor 2. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, yeah, I'm really not good at explaining this. I've also asked many of my friends, like, how should I explain that, but it is really difficult to explain. Let's just say the only tip I can actually give you is do all the floors you can. Let's say I can only go up to floor 10. Just do floor 1 to 10. Once I can't do any more floors and I haven't unlocked anything, you reset, which is with the bottom right here. In the bottom corner is this button right here, and it will reset. Now, all the floors will be unticked again, and your previous progress will go to 10 because the previous one you've done is 10 floors in a row. Now, these will all be undone again. Now, once I start at floor 1 again, it will say prestige 10 and floor 1. Now, I go all the way up to 10. Maybe at that time I already unlocked floor 11. Then my current progress will be 11, previous progress 10. Once I've completed that floor and I reset again, my previous progress will jump to 11, and my current progress will again be 0, so I can do all floors again. I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, I'm really sorry. You just gotta get it. The click has to be there, and if you can't get it, try to get on any site. I hope there are some better explanations on that as well, but I've tried my very best, and if this is not clear, I'm sorry. That's all I can do. Now, of course, doing all these floors take a lot of time, and some of the floors are not even worth it. I mean, floor 1 doesn't give that great experience compared to, let's say, for my example, floor 53. Now, what people for that example do, I've also told it before in one of my top tips, it is a prestige run, or C1 rushes, depends on how you call it, which is basically you just C1 rush, which is floor, let's say, floor 1, and complexity 1. C1, complexity 1, same thing. Then you just complete the floor. You can usually do it, especially with a really good team, with like a 5-man team on 5 to 1 difficulty. You can complete these floors in about 1 minute. Now, doing, let's say for me, floor 1 all the way to 430, you can get the lower floors out of the way so you can reset quicker and do more high-level floors in a row. Now, up until level 75 Dungeoneering, I do not recommend this. Only below, or only higher than Dungeoneering level 75 I recommend this, since all these lower floors, which are for me now lower floors, are higher floors for you guys. So what I recommend for that is to do the highest 5 floors you can, large 5-man, and then do the rest C1 rush. So even if you're level 1, you just do floor 1 large. If you can only do up to floor 6, you do floor 2 to 6 large and do 1 C1 rush. I hope this makes sense, and if it doesn't, well, again, I explained the best I could. So I'm basically gonna leave an annotation on the screen right now, and it will tell you what to do. Now, if you think this is too hard and too difficult, you're just gonna ignore this and still train Dungeoneering, don't. I've asked Josh to do a floor for me, to be exact, so I can show you how important prestige is. Now, the first floor Josh has done is a floor 1. He already did floor 1, so the prestige is not applied here, and as you can see, he only got 391 experience for floor 1, and since he already did the floor, the prestige is not applied, so he got that from 0, and his average is now 195. Now, with some other modifiers right there, he got 162 experience at the end, which is really not great, and your experience will not go as far, especially if you see his prestige is 48, but since he already did a floor, since he just did a floor, he didn't get any prestige bonus. Now, as you can see, for my floor, I did the exact same floor, floor 1, which I got 392 experience for, but since I didn't do this floor yet, and I still had prestige 53, which is of course more than him, but still there's a big difference, I got 14.7k experience for that, and with the average, it got to a total of 6.2k experience, which is a whole lot different than his experience. Now, with another floor, which is basically the difference between his prestige and my prestige, is we both did a floor 40, or a floor 30, which he got 4.5k experience and 12.5k experience for an average of 7.8k experience, and I did the same floor. I got 4.5k experience to a 16k experience and got an average of 9.3k experience. That shows how good this prestige is, and you should really not ignore this, since this can boost your experience up way high. Okay guys, that was the end of my guide. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please let me know in the comments below, and I hope to see you in my next part. My next part will be hopefully out in the next couple of days. I'm quite busy, of course, just like 99% of all students right now. They have their exams and their end of the year, all their things they still have to hand in, so I'm gonna be busy with that, but I'm gonna hopefully bring out the new part in the next couple of days, and otherwise I'll see you in about a week or something. See ya!